And we're back with me, Johnny McMurray, on the On the Spot Football Podcast for yet another fantastic guest. Another presenter, an ex-player, an ex-manager, a host. Jeez, you've been everywhere. And he even has an MBE, which we are going to talk about it, but it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Liam Beckett. Liam, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Johnny. How are you, son?
I've just laughed for 20 minutes there before we get started, so...
I've been laughing too at that moustache you have, but it's getting there, Johnny. I thought it was a bit adults when I come on at the start, but
you can't get the ends on yours, I don't think.
No, I'm scared to pull too much at mine. At my age, it might come off.
You nip it, you see.
I nip it. No, it's good old job.
I'm trying to.
Is that a November job?
That's only a month.
Is it?
You think about what it'd be by the end of Christmas.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I'll be touching her.
You would shoot it. Would you keep it? Would you consider
No, she won't let me keep it. That.
Oh, right.
I'll be completely honest. Lucy's not a fan. I love it.
Aye.
Part of me gives sort of 70s porn star vibe.
Yeah.
The other people probably look at you questionably and think that you're a weirdo on the street, but
Aye.
I like it.
Aye.
Do you know what I
Aye.
mean? Anyway, how are you?
I'm good.
Two fantastic moustaches. Let's be real.
Aye, let's be honest.
Let's be honest. You know,
it's like a competition here for Magnum, isn't it?
T.I.
Aye. Exactly.
But no, listen, fantastic to have you on.
Pleasure, John.
Absolute pleasure to get you in the studio, mate, because there's so many stories, so many good times. Obviously, I've known you for quite a while now, and it's probably the first time I've really got to sit down and have a proper conversation with you.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good thing, but maybe it's
a long way to go
thing, but we've got as much time as you need. The only thing I'm afraid of here is the missus in the car. So you can be sitting there all night, pitch a tent up. You know? Listen, as you know, the podcast has been going in a certain direction, and I like to kind of get people in, talk about themselves, the highs and the lows, and everything in between, and there's no better man than to take us through their life than you. So
I've watched a few of them. Very good, Johnny.
Good.
Very good. Very informal and relaxed, and
I
think that's the best way to get the best out of people, really.
It is. Build a wee bit of rapport with people and have that a crack, you know.
Correct.
The good thing is everybody knows me, and I'm not here to try and dig anybody out or do anything bad, you know what I mean?
No, it's excellent.
Trying to publicise the good people who have been around for a long time. And you're one of them.
Good on you.
Good on you. But listen, I want to get started.
I'm only a country boy, Johnny, that lucky.
Here, do you know what? I've got my gilet on here. Somebody made a comment that I was out trying to farm at one stage today. I didn't think it was right, but I don't know what the fuck I'm going on.
No, listen, you need a bit of good luck in life as well. You know, I remember Big Harry Gregg told me once, you know, Beckett, you need a bit of ability, but you need a bit of luck.
You do.
And I think maybe I had a wee bit of both, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe
here you've had some, looking back on the career, doing a wee bit of research and stuff before we get in.
Yeah.
You've had a very, very decent career besides the media. A lot of people will probably only know you for doing the media side of things, and I'm going to be completely honest, I was probably one of them, but I dug into the history of the football and the managing side of things.
Yeah.
There's wee stones that are unturned in there, you know. You just never know.
Aye, it's been good, you know, and I didn't have a great start in life. My father died when I was 2.
Okay.
He was 26 years of age, died of a brain hemorrhage, and left us sort of, we were a poor family to start with, so it didn't help matters any. And my late mother, God love her, she took a job during the day as a farm labourer, and then at night she cleaned people's houses. And that was just to put a loaf on the table and sort of put shoes on your feet, you know, to get you to school and that. There was me and an older brother, Lawrence, so it was tough, Johnny. But, you know, I always think the harder life is when you're young, the better you're grounded. If you do maybe get a wee bit of success for whatever reason as you get older, it keeps you grounded, you know. And I'll never forget the hard times. So I think sometimes if you feel maybe you've got sort of that you didn't get the rub of the green and something, if you just think back to the early days, you realise very quickly that, you know, you've been pretty lucky in life. And just with, as I say, with a wee bit of ability and a bit of good luck, and did okay.
I think luck's a big part of it. I think it gets overlooked, actually, at times. I think that when people say that ability gets you there and all these professional footballers come, there's always somebody watching at the right time.
Aye, there is, surely.
In terms of actually playing the game.
And you know, you've been at different teams, and I was lucky in the fact that I've won everything I could win in the Irish League, and some of them more than once. But the fact is that you need to be lucky and be on a team that's a good team.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter how good or how poor you play on a Saturday. And we all have bad games and we all have good games, but as long as there's a good team and you're in a good team, the chances are you'll win something.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, with a bit of luck come in for me, because any of the teams I went to, they were good teams, and I was lucky. I just went in at the right time when they had built a good team, and that enabled us to win things. So that's where the bit of luck comes in, you know. But I think that a tough upbringing, I think, to be honest with you, it keeps you grounded and keeps you focused better. And school was never for me either. I went to primary school in Ballymoney, and then when my father passed away, obviously, you got a free meal ticket.
Okay.
And it was like a reddy colour, you know, like a maroon colour.
Yeah. Remember? Used to come off the big wheel.
Aye, that's right. That was them there. So
I'm not that old, you see.
you got a different coloured meal ticket. And when I was at school, you lined up, and particularly when I went to intermediate school, you lined up with your mates from your classroom, and as you lined into the queue to go into the dinner hall at lunchtime, you all had to hold up the colour of your ticket. And because mine was a free meal ticket, because I'd only one parent, I was taken to the side. And all the rest of the pupils were allowed on in first.
Yeah.
And you joined the end of the queue.
Okay.
Which
usually it would be the other way around, no?
It made you feel very second class, to be honest, you know, and embarrassed.
Yeah.
I was more embarrassed than anything because you were going in at the end of the queue like a beggar, going to get whatever scraps were left. And when you did get into the dinner hall, the rest of your mates from your class had eaten and were out in the playground having a bit of football or whatever, and you were going in there to sit sort of at a dinner table on your own. So
yeah.
I took a dislike to school. It's not something I would tell people to do. It's just the circumstances weren't right for me, and so I stopped going. I mooched as many times as I possibly could. And funny, when they did the first book on me, an autobiography, an aunt of mine who was very particular about school and things, she came and she says, would they like to see your school report from whatever year, you know, when you missed 40 days in one term? And I says, I'm not sure they'd be too keen on reading that, you know. And she wasn't too enamoured about this, you know. Yeah. And I'd missed 40 days in one term.
What did you do?
I'll tell you what I did. My mother gave me, God love her, and God rest her, she gave me a penny every morning, 1 penny. And I went to the shop on the way down into the school. We walked. You know, we lived about 3 miles outside Ballymoney, and I walked to school every day and back home again. So I went to the wee shop at the Milltown, a wee village called the Milltown at the bottom of the town, and I bought a penny chew. With that penny my mother gave me. And a penny chew in them days was the size of a Mars bar. And I headed back out to the country again, near to where we lived. And there was a great big, thick tree. And I went up that tree. And I sat up there from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, chewing that penny chew. Till when I went to bed at night and put my head down, honest to God, I thought I'd lockjaw. And my jaws were that sore every night. I did that every day I moved school. I sat up there and ate and this is true, the school inspector guy, the man that used to go around looking for the boys that were mitching, I remember him coming out one day and walking round the bottom of the tree. And I had up that tree and I kept going round. As he was going round, I was climbing round as well, and he never got me. A man called Harry Scott.
Tell you what, it just while I have you here at this point, I'd hate to see you bite me at that stage. Jaws must have.
I'm telling you,
he stealed
you
you.
talk about a dentist's nightmare. But I ate a penny chew. But it was that size of penny chew in them days, and that's what I did for 40 days. And I never went to school. So I left school at 15, with 0 qualifications. And sometimes when I watch programs nowadays, and I watch these kids getting the results, and they're jumping for joy. Mm-hmm. I don't like to see that, to be honest, because I know around the corner there's maybe a few looking at their results and it's not what they were expecting to get. And I think it's determining success and failures far too early in life. I think they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be highlighting these people, oh, I've got so many A's and I've got this and I've got that. I think that's wrong, because there'll be people there not as intelligent as them that didn't do as well. And they immediately feel failures. And like, as I say, I left school at 15 with 0 qualifications. I haven't done too bad, because
no, definitely not.
You just have to look at the world we live in, and it's governed by, people who are knee deep in academical qualifications, and the world's a mess.
Yeah.
So, I just think if people have a wee bit of gumption, as we would call it, a wee bit of common sense, we'll get on the best, we'll do the best. But we have people running our country, sure, that are so highly qualified academically. Look at the mess we're in. So I just think, listen, there'll be a niche for you somewhere in life. Let it be, I went on to be a plumber. Let it be in the building trade, a bricklayer, on the bin lorry, whatever it is, you'll get there and you'll get through and you'll do the very best. So stop determining people as success and failures when they're only at school, because that can turn out to be very different.
Well, as you say, a lot of people learn differently. There's science learning, there's like kinesthetic learning and different things like that. People are visual learners, people are more academically smarter whenever they can retain information. I know. Unfortunately, I'm a goldfish in this point and I don't retain that much information. But in terms of
you had
doing
to go
stuff,
to school,
wouldn't say it was great. I didn't mooch and I wasn't eating pennies anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I have a decent enough jawline, but not nothing like yours. But
it can come back to haunt you sometimes, because I hear words, sometimes I don't know what they're talking about. Yes. And obviously, thanks to my old mate Jackie Fullerton, I got into the BBC. I don't know how it came about, and I used to feel in there in awe of some of the people, particularly him. Because he was the greatest, Jackie. There'll never be another. Yeah, he was a one-off too. He was a one-off. I can't say anything else because he's drummed that into me for 40 odd years. But I'm being serious. There will never be another Jackie Fullerton. And I remember being in the BBC a very short space of time when they did a phone in, and it was myself, a panel of three, and when I was asked, I said, that's all right. It was a phone in, and it was myself and Kate Hoey, who was then the Minister for Sport, and I think some other very well educated man from Sport NI, and me. And that was the three of us. And the first question came in was directed to me. I'll never forget. Stop twirling that moustache, Johnny. So I saw that side lifting a minute ago. And the first question was directed to me, and this is true. It included the word, I was doing all right for a minute, and then the guy threw in the word facetious. Facetious. And I hadn't a bucking clue what that man was on about. That threw me the curve ball. I was great until that. Right. And I thought, shut upon from a visit out. And I sort of thought, well, I'll try and stumble my way out of this, or I'll be perfectly honest. And so I just was perfectly honest. I can't remember. It might even have been Wendy Austin was hosting it. And I says, I don't think I can answer that question simply because I don't understand it. I says, but I think I'll do like all other defenders. I'll head it on to one of my co-panelists. Okay. And I headed it on. Kate Hoey took it, and she answered it. And at this stage, I think Wendy was distraught over the top of the table, lying in hysterics. But that's when it came back to haunt me. I hadn't a clue. For a long time after that, they called me facetious. I'm
going to pick that up too.
Aye. So there's times like that when people throw in big words that I would struggle a wee bit.
Well, did you ever find out what it means? Because right now, I have no clue.
Do you know, I thought this is true.
Means.
This is true. When I got it at the start, when they threw this, the guy threw the word facetious in, I genuinely thought it was an illness. and I thought for a minute or two, that sounds... I was trying to put two together, and I thought, that sounds like an illness. I says, I take it that's maybe an illness, a sporting illness, which I don't know a big lot about, so I'll head it on to my co-panelist. And I hadn't a bucking clue what that guy was on about. And it was afterwards, I think, I'm not sure yet what it means, and I'm glad he didn't ask me to spell it, but that would have been another story. So there's times like that, those type of words come back to haunt you, and to be honest with you, it's something that never really fazed me, and I would just be honest. If I didn't understand somebody, or somebody was trying to be very polite or very clever maybe, and throwing in the big words, so be it. I would just say to somebody nowadays, I said it in a meeting there I was at just about a couple of weeks ago, one of the men there, not trying to be smart around, he threw in a great big word, and I had to stop the meeting and say, could you explain what that means? And he did. So I don't mind that. I think if you just get through life, you'll be all right.
Well, at what stage did you go into the BBC? As you say, you've come out of school at 15, you've no qualifications.
Nothing.
And then all of a sudden a friend has brought you in the
obviously,
world.
Obviously went into the sport, first of all, the football. And that's where I fell in with Jackie, or Des Lynham, as I called him. That's right. When I fell in with him, we became very good friends. He was in the Crusaders team. Okay, yeah. Just about to leave it, He was
about 30 at this stage, I think, from when he was.
Aye, and I was 20, I think, when I went into the Crusaders team. And after I left school, I never kicked the ball. I went to into the plumbing, and we were serving. I was serving my time to a company that were based up in Londonderry, so we had to travel all the time up and down, and there was no bypasses around Limavady around in them days. So from Ballymoney, you had to get through all the towns. So we were leaving home at 6:30 in the morning in Ballymoney to be in the Craigan. They were building the Craigan houses at the time, and we weren't back home at night till about 7 o'clock. So you just didn't have any time for football. You had your supper when you come home, whatever there was there to eat. As I say, God luck, my mother, she always had food on the table for us. But, excuse me, so I just went to bed then, had my supper and went to bed, or maybe watched a wee bit of TV. But you were working in them days when you were serving your apprenticeships. You started work on the site at 8 o'clock. You didn't run, rattle up about 9 o'clock with a polystyrene box with sausages in it or something. You were there at 8 o'clock, you were on the job, you started, and we were working up in London there, so it meant leaving Ballymoney about 6:30. And as I say, you weren't home, you stopped work at 5, and by the time you get all packed up and all, we were home about 7, 7:30.
Yeah.
So football became, I never kicked the ball until I was 20.
Well, this is one of the most interesting things for me is, how does Crusaders sign a young 20-year-old who's never kicked the ball and who just works on building stuff?
Well, I went up to play a summer league game in Garva. And a fella was playing called Colin McFeely.
Okay.
Really, really good friend of mine now. And Colin was playing for Crusaders. And in them days, summer league football was a big thing, and a lot of the pros were playing. And Colin was playing for Crusaders. There was another guy there from Crusaders, and they came over to me after the game and said, would you come up? And because of my old accent, Jackie used to say to me, after about 20 minutes, Jackie said to me one day in front of everybody, he says, Liam, I'd only started the co-commentary in that, and he said, Liam, speak slowly and concisely. For the first 20 minutes, the listeners think you're Polish. he had no bother cutting you down in size if he thought you were getting too good around. But so I went up to Crusaders. I thought about the old accent, and would people understand me? And, when you're a country yokel like me, would people really understand what I'm saying? So, but I went, talked it over with my mother and big brother Lawrence, and I headed up, and they couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
And that's where the bit of luck came in, Johnny, because they'd just built a really good team. Billy Johnson was the manager. And we trained on the Tuesday night, trained on the Thursday night. I played for the seconds on the Saturday under Norman Pavis, the late great Norman Pavis, who was a Crusaders legend. And then the Tuesday night, I must have played rightly, because on the Tuesday night when I reported for training, they asked me to go with the first team. And I trained on the Tuesday night, the Thursday night with the first team, and was taken with the first team on the Saturday. After one reserve game, and then it all just kicked off after that. I never looked back. It was the only one and only. I played one reserve game and straight into the first team, and they had a real quality side build. And I couldn't believe it. And Jackie was playing in that team, and very skillful, but very scared.
Right.
A heart the size of a pea, I used to tell him. And Jackie used to say to me, this is true, he was very, technically very gifted. Jackie was a lot better player than a lot of people gave him credit for. And he was part of that. That was the first Crusaders team ever to win the league title at Seaview. And Jackie was part of that, a very big part of that. Scored a lot of very important goals, but didn't like the physical side. And in them days, it was very physical. And the way his hair is always wavy, and some wee women in Belfast used to say, Jackie, is your hair knitted? And but he always had it sitting mint, So, and I remember I was going out in old winter days. I was out there the day, and I remember I was going out onto the pitch, and Jackie would have been, hunched over him. There was no warm-ups in them days. You went out 2 minutes before the match started, and he'd have been going out going, oh, Liam shivering and getting on, but looking the part, and the big fullback who would have been marking him, Jackie was left wing, and then there would have been a big right back standing with the sleeves rolled up to the oxters, and the sleet coming down, standing like a grizzly bear. And this is true. I remember us coming out, and there was a lad playing for, I can't remember who it was at the time, big fella called Jackie McManus. And he was built like a gladiator, and he had the sleeves, and he was marking Jackie. And Jackie took one look at him, and we were running onto the pitch, and he turned round to me and he says, Liam, I think he wants to hurt me. And because your man, Big Jack, had the teeth clenched and all, McManus, you know, he had the teeth clenched, and Jackie was terrified. And he says, Liam, I think he wants to hurt me. And I says, listen, just you drop the shoulder and go past him. That's our job then in them days. Defenders weren't as good as attackers. So your job was to hit hard. You know, it was much more physical than it is now, because they were better players. Forwards were better players than defenders, but they didn't have as big a heart as defenders. So you needed to play into both. And this is true, Jack. He says to me, I think he wants to hurt me. And I says, of course he wants to hurt you. And I says, but drop you the shoulder. And then Stewie says to me, this could be carnage. And I says, it could be. And then he says, but I always played behind him. And he says, but you'll be there to pick up the pieces. And I says, I will, surely so. But no, he was a really good player, and he was a big part of that Crusaders League winning team. Yeah. We won the league, first time ever, played in the Champions League. And Dynamo Bucharest, they hammered us. And then we come home and won the Carlsberg Cup that year as well. And that was when I think it was at pre-season, and we were training at Seaview, and I got a tap on the shoulder, and it was the manager, Billy Johnson, a lovely, lovely man. And he said to me, we've had an offer from Drogheda in the League of Ireland. They've come into some money. They've signed 4 players already, and they're looking for you to go and play in the League of Ireland. And I thought, I said to Billy, I said, no, I'm happy enough here, you know. We were getting £7 a week. That was the wages. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I'm happy enough, Billy. I don't want to go anywhere. And he says, well, the club have accepted the offer, and it's a chance for you to make some decent money. And he says, I'll go in with you and help you negotiate if you want. So I remember walking off Seaview into the boardroom. He says, they're here. There's 4 or 5 of the directors of Drogheda here. And I remember walking off the pitch numb, because I was gutted. I didn't want to go. And as I say, we were getting £7 a week, but we'd already won the league, and we'd won the Carlsberg Cup.
And you're just happy at that stage?
And I was happy. Yeah. And I loved all the boys that I was playing with, all great lads. And so I walked into the dressing room, and all these men were sitting, including some of the Crusaders directors. And the wee agent was a wee man called Mousy Brady. You might have heard of Mousy in Irish League. A legend. The wee shite. He was the agent, and he's sitting, and all right. So the guy started speaking, and he said, we've signed 4 players already. We've signed Danny Traynor from Ardoyne, a great big solid midfield player, played in the Irish League. We've signed Jordy O'Halloran, a great left winger for Distillery from Beachmount, top of the Falls Road. We've signed Jeremy Caffrey, great striker from Glentoran, from the New Lodge, I think. And we've signed Martin Donnelly, super midfield player from Distillery, who were a great team back then, Premiership team. Martin Donnelly from the Falls Road. And we would like to sign you. It never entered my mind at that stage. This was in the height of the Troubles. Yeah. You know, and they're burning barricades everywhere, and this is 1973, I think. Right in the midst of the Troubles. And it never entered my mind. And I said, right, well, and just before I could say, well, I'm not sure, your man says, we can offer you £40 a week. My ears picked up, my eyes opened up, and Billy Johnson was standing beside me. And he says, and we can give you a 4-figure signing on fee. Well, as I say, my grammar and my spelling was never great. As Fullerton always reminded me. Even when I do my Sunday Life column now, Jackie would say to me, Liam, if it wasn't for your spelling and your grammar, you could be columnist of the year. But anyway, so my old grammar and my spelling was never great, but my maths was always pretty good. I knew how to make a fiver, and I remember they said we can give you a 4-figure signing on fee, and I thought, Jesus, that starts at £1,000. Yeah, no money you'd never seen or we couldn't dream of. And I says, well, I would need to think about it and talk it over with my mother, you know, before I would. He says, we need a decision within 24 hours. And I said, right, I'll get you the decision. So I went home, and I remember sitting at the wee house we had, a wee 2 up, 2 down, and I was telling my mother all about it. And she says, oh, son, I'd be worried about you crossing the border. They're shooting people, just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I'm a Protestant called Liam. And it wasn't the ideal time to be thinking about a career in the south of Ireland. And so let me tell you, that being a Protestant called Liam took me down a lot of roads I should never have been down, Johnny. But anyhow, I'm not joking to you. So anyway, my accent into the bargain. So my mother says, no, I'd rather you wouldn't go, son. She says, because, they're shooting people just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And sure, the troubles are terrible. And I says, well, they're giving me £40 a week and £1,000 signing on fee. And I seen my mother's ears picking up, and she says, well, I need to take you to the train. So her mind was made up there and then like that. So I knew then I'm going. So I rang me Mousy and I says, I'm going, Arthur. Arthur Brady was a lovely, lovely man. Many's a fry made me in the mornings in Belfast, and even during the troubles. And so he said, listen, you wouldn't come down. The matches were all played on a Sunday then in the League of Ireland. He says, you wouldn't mind coming down on the Friday. I think he took me down to meet you. You meet some people in the town and that. So I headed to Drogheda with Mousy, and I'll never forget the first day we went. He took me up the Falls Road, and there was a big red double-decker bus on fire across the Falls Road. We had to actually go up onto the footpath and go round the burning bus back onto the road. I remember thinking that day, in the name of Jesus, what am I doing? Going down to Drogheda to play when the troubles are like this. But I ploughed on anyway. I knew I'd come at it. So I headed on down, and the directors are waiting on me. And they shook hands with me. And then they took me down the main street to meet all these shopkeepers, like an old heifer they had bought at the mart, So they're marching me down. And this is true. This big chapel's getting bigger and bigger and bigger at the bottom. It's the main street as we're heading towards it. And I remember thinking, where are they going? Or where were they taking me? And sure shooting, we ended up at the front door of the chapel. And I thought, what's going on? So I remember looking at one of the directors and I said, where are we going now? And he says, we're going into the chapel, Liam. And we would like to show you Oliver Plunkett's head. It's in here in a glass case. And that's when the penny dropped. And I thought, oh, shit, they think I'm a Catholic. And I thought, I'm too far gone here. I may play along with this. And this is true, I'd never been in a chapel in my life. I come from a loyalist estate in Ballymoney. So I heads in anyway, into the chapel. And they took it in turns to march me round and round Oliver Plunkett's head inside the chapel. And I remember thinking, Christ almighty, it wouldn't have been so bad if they'd have done it all together, collectively, but they took me round one at a time.
You'd seen it.
I knew Oliver quite well by the time I'd finished. I was dizzy, actually. They walked me round Oliver Plunkett, and just at that time I saw the door opening, and I saw the paparazzi outside, with the cameras. And and I thought, oh, Christ almighty, if they take a picture of me coming out of chapel and I'm only here, they'll hang me from the nearest tree when I get back to Glebeside in Ballymoney. And so I says to a boy in there, is there a side door? I didn't ask Oliver, he wasn't speaking to anybody. And I said to another man, said to another man that was walking about, a bit like Oliver, he might have been a half brother or something. I said to him, would you have a side door? And he says, we have a side door. And what's the problem? I said, get me out of it, please, because I don't want them paparazzi taking a photograph. So I got out, Johnny, played along with it. And I think we played Shamrock Rovers on the Sunday. I stayed down, of course, all the boys all landed the Saturday. Played, I think we maybe won 1-0, good result. Headed back home. The next week we're going down, we're all in a minibus. And Mousy's driving it. And all the signings are there. Danny Traynor, Geordie O'Halloran, Martin Donnelly, Big Jerry McCaffrey, great lads. And they're singing every rebel song under the sun. Billy Reid, Rifles for the IRA, Men Behind the Wire, Four Green Fields, you name it. And I'm up on the side of the bus singing away, thumping the side of the bus, because I didn't know the words of any of them. And I'm thumping it, and I can't let on, I don't know these songs, and I'm one of the boys, and I'm thumping away. And it gets to the ground anyway, and I thought, Jesus, I can't go on like this, And there wasn't a Protestant in the team or anywhere near the place. So we play another match that Sunday. The third week we're going down in the minibus. I'm actually up leading the singing at this stage. I'd learnt 2 new ones during the week, actually. I was teaching them. I was probably at this stage the best Catholic in the bus. The audience is laughing. So, I'm not joking you. I knew how to bless myself and everything. They taught me everything. So I arrived and dropped the third week. This is the sweat's lashing of me with fear. And the boy, I remember one of the trainers came out and said, "Would you like to warm up, Liam?" And I said, "Warm up? What the heck got us there?" The sweat's sweet. The beads of sweat were in my head. But anyway, I got through it anyway. And then the fourth week we were going down in the minibus. I'll never forget. Big Danny trainer, God rest him, was sitting just beside me, and Danny's not here anymore, and the old bus was freezing, and we were near Dundalk at the time, and I says, "Mousey, turn the heating on. Freezy, this old bus." And Big Danny says, "Can't turn the heating on, Bex. The butter will melt." And I knew my old accent wasn't great, and I thought, he's mistook what I said there. And what Jackie had told me, "Liam, speak slowly and concisely." So I slowed it all down. I said to Mousey, "Arthur, turn the heating on. I'm freezing." And Big Danny says, "No, we heard you, Bex, the first time. Can't turn the heating on. The butter will melt." I says, "What?" "The butter will melt." And I says, "What butter?" He says, "Did you not know?" And I says, "No. Look underneath the seats." And I looked underneath the seats of the minibus, and they're packed to the throat with Dramona butter. The cunts are smuggling it over the borders. 4 times the price in the south than it was in the north. And I thought, there's me signing on fee. I'm only here 4 weeks. I've been to chapel. I know every rebel song there is back to front. And now I'm smuggling buck and butter. If my ma would have knew half of what was going on, I would have got a warm ear, I can assure you. And I thought, I'm shut upon here. But anyway, they're smuggling butter. Right from the south. I don't know where the butter went, or I had no part of it, to be honest with you. They took £1 or 2 profit of it, I know. Anyhow, I said nothing, and then I think it was the 5th week. I was hanging up my old sheepskin coat. We all had sheepskin coat in them days, with a fur collar. All the footballers wore them, even though mine was fake. And I'll tell you how I knew that. I lifted Jackie's one day by mistake, and it near hit the floor. It was about 3 times the weight of mine, even though the shade at Nuts Corner assured me mine was the real McCoy. That was fake. And I'm hanging it up in the corner when Mousey announced in the dressing room, "By the way, lads, your man's a Jaffa." Just as I'm hanging up the corner, which must have been a Belfast slang for Orangeman or something. "Your man's a Jaffa." And I nearly had a brown hemorrhage in the middle of the dressing room. And he shit me. So as I'm hanging up the coat, I thought, oh, jeez, my cover's blowing. Don't forget, after all this, you had to go out and play a match. And so I'm hanging up, and there was silence for about 15 seconds. And I felt very out of it. I felt like an Orangeman. And so I'm hanging up the old fake sheepskin coat, and then suddenly the old dressing room started to talk and all again. And do you know something? After that, when we were coming up home, when we were coming into the north, after a few pints, I was never a big drinker, but I could take a couple of pints, but the other boys were all good drinkers. And when we were coming into the north, they would have said, will we sing it for him? And one of them would have said, "No, will we? What? Will we?" "No, we're not singing that. I will sing it for him." So they started to sing the sash as we come over into the north. And do you know something? Not one of them knew the word. They were all up thumping the side of the bus. Not one of them knew the words of the sash. But, I realised then that football's a great common denominator. It brings everybody together. And I know I keep harping on about it unites people. It does.
It does, 100%.
Because I was as well treated at Drogheda after that as I could have been anywhere. Mm-hmm. And thanks be to God, right enough, Bertie Peacock had just built a great team at Coleraine. And Bertie had just stepped down, and Johnny McCurdy and Ivan Murray, 2 great, great legends at Coleraine, they had taken over joint manager role, and they asked me would I come, and they submitted an offer to Drogheda, and I was transferred to Coleraine. And that's where the luck comes in again, because when I joined Coleraine, they had built a cracking side, and we went on to win everything. Couple Irish Cups, they even scored in one of them. Johnny had come up from the back, we put a bend on it, and scored in one of them, and we won everything, and got to play in all the major European competitions. So that's where the wee bit of luck come in. I could maybe have been transferred to a team that weren't as good, but that Coleraine team were a cracking team. Right. So when I went to the Cruise, they were a brilliant side. Went to Coleraine, I was just going in as a journeyman into what was already a brilliant team. And that was it. There was a great togetherness in them teams as well, and That's sometimes what I worry about footballers nowadays, when money seems to play such a big part. I wonder, is there still the same togetherness there was when I played? When you played in really good, successful teams, there really wasn't much difference in what people were earning, you know. Jackie always used to ask me what was in my packet, but we'd never any, you were never too embarrassed to say. And in those days, Johnny, you played for the medal, you know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't swap my medals now, you know, for the money would be long gone if you took the money and didn't want anything.
100%.
The medals are still there, and you can look at them every now and again, you know. And
It's the memories more than anything.
And the memories more than anything, whereas the money will go. And I just think maybe it's going full circle now that the money plays a big part. I think some of the wages being offered, particularly in England and all, is obscene. Yeah. But I think it takes away from that desire to be successful, you know, and to win something. And to play for the old badge, and, you know, I know they still run around patting their badge and all that. Half of them don't mean it.
You do that so you don't get shouted at.
Aye, of course, exactly.
That's why I don't.
So
kissing them and all this stuff.
So that's where the luck come in. Wee bit of ability, but a lot of luck as well. Big Harry was never so slow, and anything they ever told me, you know.
Harry Gregg.
Aye.
What was he like as a character going in there? Because he was at Coleraine with you the first time. You do a double, don't you? Harry was probably, well, I never knew my father because, as I say, he died when I was only 2. And I think if I ever needed any guidance, I went to Harry. Okay. And he never really gave me wrong advice. Mm-hmm. And I always treasured that advice, you know. And he would have been blunt, you know. He didn't mess about, and I think he had a degree in swearing, and he just told you as it was, you know. And I think that's why he's still, even though he's gone now, Harry is still revered, you know, across the world. He's a global legend in sport. But again, they don't make people like Harry Gregg anymore, you know. So he was very good at giving me what I call fatherly advice. If ever I needed to ask him something, I usually, because you grew up without a father, Johnny, I think you learn to make a lot of decisions on your own, you know. You don't have a father to turn around and say, what do you think I should do, Dad? You know, he's not there, my father. So I made a lot of those decisions on my own. I never got too many wrong, despite the fact that I never went to school very often. But to say that you can very quickly go the opposite direction, please, with some of your decisions.
Aye, you can.
So it takes you to have a wee bit of sort of common sense.
A wee bit of gumption. Aye, we call it gumption, common sense, which I think is lacking a terrible lot in people nowadays, you know. And I sit among politicians all the time, and I think, right, geez, many days did you miss at school? You know, when I think of someone, hear some of the decisions they're making, and I just think, for goodness sake. And you know, Johnny, I keep saying, we are what we are. You know, I'm a Protestant. I'm proud of my culture. So-and-so's a Catholic. I have as many good Catholic friends on my phone as I have Protestant friends. But I think sport helped an awful lot of that, you know, because you played with teammates. When I played at Coleraine, I had Eugene McNutt, Catholic from Derry/Londonderry on my left, Johnny McCurdy, right back, Protestant from Ballymoney. And we played as a team. Yeah. And the only thing ever entered my mind was, how are these guys playing on a Saturday? You see where they were going to worship on a Sunday? Who cares? Yeah. You know, we are what we are. And let's get on with life and go wherever your house of worship is on a Sunday. And fair play, go ahead and do whatever it is. But, you know, just have a wee bit of common sense and realise that this is a great wee country we live in.
It is.
And sport plays a hell of a big part in it. And that's another thing I always say. During those troubles, when we were on the verge of a civil war in this country, and they were burning buses and shooting people because they were the wrong religion and the wrong place at the wrong time, football kept going, Johnny. And football, I felt then, built bridges in our community that politicians could never build. Yeah. You know, we built that in the communities. The sport, you always turned up on a Saturday and you played. Catholics, Protestants, whatever, you played away, and that, I thought that was a great common denominator. It let me see that there's no difference. You know, a Catholic player left back and a Protestant player right back, there's no difference.
One thing that I've never actually asked somebody, and it's probably just because it's popped into my head here having this conversation with you, but in the height of the troubles when you're playing, and this is probably, I don't want to sound stupid, but was the atmosphere better because of the height of everything around you?
Aye.
Does that
there
make
was
sense?
more sectarianism, Johnny. You know?
No, I get that.
And there was, the atmosphere was great. Crowds were big in them days as well, you know, and the crowds are coming back again, admittedly, but the crowds were big in them days. But you did take a lot of, you know, I was called a Fenian cunt, and I was called an orange bee, and I was, you know, because...
Didn't know what you were.
Didn't know what it was. And I, God forgive me, but I used to bless myself and all in front of some of the frauds, you know, when I knew they were giving me dog's abuse. But I remember getting both sides in one match one time. I was called both. Right. And I remember driving home that night after the match and thinking, what a strange wee country we live in, you know, you can't win. But again, I think I'm delighted to say that that's near enough gone.
It is, I think so.
That's near enough gone. And I think...
Very small...
There's a small minority.
100%.
And you're going to get that, Johnny. I'll settle for what we've got now.
Absolutely.
You know, and as I keep saying, you know, you are what you are, and just get on with it. You know, there's no reason to take it any further than that, you know.
At what stage do you realise that being in the media is something that you actually want to go for? I know that you've talked about when you go there. Jackie's probably leaving Crusaders.
Yeah.
Time when you sign, he's about to step into the BBC or step into UTV, I think it was at that stage. But at what stage do you think that that's a route that I can take, and I know you have no qualification?
I think, you know, whenever your football's career is near enough over, or your sporting career is near enough over, I think that's when, you know, you're offered to maybe do something like that. I never really felt uncomfortable. I did feel at times I don't speak like anybody else, you know, for a start. And I remember doing a talk-back programme with Wendy Austin one time when there's a lady there that does a house programme, you know, I forget the name of it, Location.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And there's a girl and a fella does that, I think. The girl was on along with me. And the topic was, does your accent affect the type of job you can do in the media? And I was on.
They've obviously picked you on purpose, haven't they?
Oh, I was a cert.
Stick him right
I was a cert, and particularly when it's the radio, you can't put subtitles up. And so anyway, I go on with her, and she said that she had to perfect her grammar to become the presenter and the star that she was.
Yeah.
And then when he said to me, and what about you, Liam? And I says, no, I'm just, you know, I haven't changed really. And maybe instead of saying I and no, which I would say every minute of the day, I would say yes and no, but that's about it, Johnny.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, never forget as we say, the bowl you were baked in. 100%. You know, never try to be something you're not. If you think you're good enough at what you do, do it. I remember the only tips I got from Brian John, and it was Jackie opened the door for me, Jackie Fullerton. I'll never forget him for it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time he asked me to do something, I thought, is he being serious? Me? You know, and you think, me? Like, you know, and it was right, and I did it, and I never looked back. And I remember Brian Johnson, great producer in sport, retired now, a great BBC producer, so highly respected, so good at his job, highly respected by everybody. And I remember him saying to me, Liam, say what you see. And I never forgot that. And if I'm at a match now, I say what I see. I don't try to paper around it or make it look any different. I think by now people understand me, what I'm talking about, but it's getting tougher as well now, Johnny, because the game has changed, you know, and we now talk about, like I heard somebody saying the other day in the radio when we're doing commentary, he's playing like a 9, a false 9. Okay. And I'm thinking, in the name of Christ, what's a false 9? I haven't a fucking clue what they're on about. So I would say maybe another year and a half. I think that would take me about 20 years with them, and that'll maybe do me, because also you need young talent. Maybe the likes of yourself. I would think that you'd be perfectly suited to that job. You know the game inside out. You know the game has changed so much, Johnny, from when I played, that sometimes, you know, Joel talks to me, sometimes Joel Taggart. I think they've changed, Liam. They've now gone for, and he'll go through the numbers, you know, and And I remember saying to him one day, no, I think they're still 4-3-2-3. And Joel said, that's 13 players you've played. So, and you try to keep up with the times, but I struggle at times, because I love football the way it used to be and without so much possession.
I also think that it's also coming back.
Aye, it is.
I don't think that it's going, like I know you're saying about, people are giving stuff different names.
Aye.
So instead of you being a midfielder, you're a 6.
Aye,
so
aye.
You're a midfielder.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You just have a specific job in there.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I think that a lot of people now are going away from it, and especially here, I don't think that, bar the full-time clubs, if I'm going to be completely honest, they have enough time, enough know-how to work on things.
Yeah.
Most other clubs can't, and the one thing that you're brought up playing from a very young age is 4-4-2.
Aye, correct.
Aye. And everybody's comfortable in it.
Yeah.
So don't, cause I think to myself, there's no need to complicate it.
No, and I think one of the things, I think they do, like, if you be honest about the thing, football used to be the simplest game in the world. A couple of coats threw down for goals and you played, and it was whoever could get the ball in the net as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And it has been tweaked and changed to, it's now become one of the most complicated games in the world, and the introduction of VAR, which I think sucks the life out of the game. It does my head in. And this possession-based football where it's up one side, and we used to go up the wing. And in my day, Jackie would have went up the wing, Fullerton hopped in a great cross. There would have been a centre forward like you, and they end up bang, net or over the bar or whatever, and it was direct. Mm-hmm. And now this possession-based football where they get to the halfway line, then they maybe go on up a bit, but then they stop and come back, and then they go across the back, and then they go back up. Yeah. And it's all possession-based football. And it bores me to tears, Johnny. And I'm now sitting commentating on a Saturday, and I'm watching it, people on their phones or talking to each other while the game's going on, and I'm thinking, that's telling me them people are bored to tears.
Yes.
And I don't know whether it's young coaches. I think they're brainwashed. I think some of the players are brainwashed. I think some of the coaches are brainwashed by the coaches who coached them when they were doing their badges. Mm-hmm. And you've people running about now with that many badges, coaching badges on. They could walk on Remembrance Sunday, some of them. Yeah. But they never kicked a football for real in their life. If you said, bring us on a medal someday, they would take some look at you. Yeah. But ask them for their qualifications. Honestly, they could walk on Remembrance Sunday, some of them, without highly decorated. But that type of game, it's not the type of football that I like, but I now know it's starting to go a wee bit more direct. And I think of you many a time, not you in particular, but strikers. And when we played, there was a fellow up front, Desi Dixon, a really, really renowned goal scorer, and the ball was knocked direct to him. We just looked for him immediately. When we got it at the back, bang, as quick as we could get it. Nowadays, it's that possession-based that you maybe look for a yard of space of being a striker, and you're running around, and then you need another yard of space, then you're marked, and then you try to go somewhere else while they're playing this possession game. And then they'll maybe knock it to you when there's two men standing beside you. And that's the last thing you want. So I just feel sorry for strikers nowadays because it's so pedestrian, so predictable, so ponderous to get the ball from back to front. I don't like that in football.
As you say, though, you spoke about before that when you were sort of playing, you had the likes of Jackie, who was a winger. Mm. As a centre forward, you know what Jackie's job is. So Jackie's job is to
get to the byline,
cross the ball, and you know where to be.
Yeah.
The opposite side of it is now when you're talking about the influx of money and people being paid, people want to stand out more, people want to be working for the team maybe. They all want to do their own things to make themselves potentially look good or try and get the goal themselves. Yeah. And it's not a team thing then. And
no, that's right. Become more a team of individuals.
Let me shine.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, correct.
And I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it can certainly be a factor. And I know as a centre forward, the reason why I became a centre forward is because I like scoring goals and I like getting the accolades for it. Yeah. Like, everyone likes to wave around and be
lovely, aye. But and as a striker, nothing, you don't get a feeling like it. The ball you hit hits the back of the net, and the net ripples. Brilliant. Even in training.
But when you're in a team where nobody's doing that or putting the ball in a position where you can do that and you go 5, 6, 7 games, you're may as well be. Yeah. You're worth nothing. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
So it's a complex hard game. I do think that the more basic football becomes for certain teams, especially in the Irish League now,
I know,
the better they'll do.
And I hear them even complaining now about a long throw that it's not nice in football. And I'm thinking, if
Get it
you've
in
somebody
there,
that
flick
can,
on.
if you've somebody that can throw a ball from the touchline into the penalty box, onto the penalty spot, why not do it?
If he throws it right in,
Aye, if
nobody
he throws
touches it and it goes in the back.
Correct.
Still take it.
Exactly.
Put you 1-0 up. You might
Or
win the
even they
game.
talk about this crude-looking football, if it's ping from the back to the front. I know you can remember when Crusaders had that team, and you had Coatsy at the back and your big chicken up front, Jordan Owens, and the diagonal ball with his left pegged straight to him, and it was either he chested it down or he left it off to somebody else. And Crusaders scored a bag of goals that way.
100%.
And that they were playing to their strengths.
They win league titles doing that.
Exactly.
But this is also the thing too. Do fans want that?
Yeah.
When you sit in the stadium and
Yeah.
you're a fan, you're paying your money. Do you want it to look good or do you want to win?
Yeah.
Would you rather go home at the weekend at 5 o'clock and
Aye.
Ballymena won 1-0?
Yeah.
All I did was put the ball long. Somebody flipped
Correct.
it and scored, or
Correct.
we could be at 1-0 and all you did was pass the ball about the back. I'd rather win.
Absolutely.
Always
Same here.
take a win.
Same here. Take the one every week.
100%.
Aye.
In terms of you being a presenter, being a host on the radio, doing different things, how does that look for you now? How is it? What do you do? Talk me through
I
it.
enjoy it. I do dinners now. I do a bit of corporate work, do quite a bit of that actually, and I enjoy it because they like to hear the stories, you know, and there's plenty of them. And funny, some of the corporate dudes you can tell a few that you maybe can't tell elsewhere, you know. But there's plenty of stories, and I enjoy that side of it as well because funny, I did one there last week. And I met up with a lot of players that I've known from the past.
Okay.
And a lot of people that was involved in the game way back, and some old faces. And that's what I keep saying. It's a great common denominator. You know, you meet players that you played with, young players that are still playing today, and people, officials from clubs and referees and different people. And it's great. You know, I think there's a family there. There's a family there outside of your immediate family. There's a family there that you can grow very close to, and I'm very lucky that I've made a hell of a lot of very good friends, Johnny. There's the odd arsehole, you get them everywhere in life, you know, and you meet some of them, and officials in particular. And so the only thing I do notice sometimes a wee bit, clubs have changed a wee bit as well, you know.
Okay.
Clubs never change really, it's the custodians that change, and you hang a blazer sometime and people in a club tie, and they change, you know.
Yeah.
You know, they become...
Them's
another crowd that couldn't maybe trap a ball either, but anyhow, they feel that wee bit of importance when they get a blazer slung on, and I think it's maybe done away with a wee bit of the sporting side of the game. At the end of the day, football and any type of sport is a sport, you know, whereas some of the clubs nowadays, you'll know quite well, some of the clubs you go to, it's like a business to them, you know, and the sport's really secondary, whereas some of the other clubs you go to, the sport's very much primarily what it's about. You get a warm handshake and a cup of tea the minute you arrive, and that's what it used to be like, you know. And you do your battle on the pitch, and then afterwards, so be it, you know.
Yeah.
But all in all, I wouldn't swap it really.
How do you think it's going to develop the Irish League over the next couple of years? As you say, like we rely on those little teams being the same way because we've built an identity over a long period of time, and I've only been in it for a short period compared to you. But I know as much as you know that that's the way it should be. Yeah, you don't want it to change.
No, I don't want
it to grow.
I don't want it to change at all. And whilst I welcome the investment, I love to see money coming out of the game, particularly if it goes round. You know, say there's investment at Coleraine or at Larne or wherever. And Glentoran and Linfield. I'm looking at the 4 full-time clubs. If that money comes in and they use that to buy a player from another club, say a smaller club like Swifts or somebody, and that's been not being disrespectful to anybody there, but Dungannon or some of the smaller clubs, and that money goes in there, I think that's great because that boosts their coffers, and the money stays within our structure, our infrastructure. I worry about the sustainability.
Okay.
And I know I keep getting endorsements. Oh, this is sound, and this is sound, and this is sound, and you know. And I can always think back to John DeLorean when I come to build cars in Northern Ireland. It was a great investment, and it all went belly up. So I keep thinking, provided it's sustainable, I welcome investment. If I thought for 1 minute I was going to come in and ruin a club, I would be very hesitant.
You don't want to go back to the future on that, do you? Like?
No, absolutely. No, I that's right. You're short tonight, so
Yeah.
that's the first one tonight, right? I know. But you've a bit to go yet. So anyhow, I take another drink of water and think another one
I
up.
was trying to wait for my end.
If the viewers only knew what you wrote in the back of that card, it's jokes. But anyhow, it's actually the back of a joke book he is that. But anyhow, no, you're dead right. I just think sustainability. I love it because I think it gets a bit of buzz going as well. And then there's other teams that love to see them teams that are getting the money and they love to see them fall on their face. You know, the other boys will be saying, that'll go belly up and all. I hope it doesn't. I hope and pray it doesn't. But you never know the minute.
It's a scary feeling, the fact that you just don't know what the future holds, considering it's a unanimous amount of money that's being put into it. And it's fantastic if you're one of the benefactors.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Then it goes back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
How much is it about actually wanting to be successful?
Yeah.
And I know it's a short career.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And do you know something, Johnny? I don't begrudge the players that get it one bit.
I'd snap your hand off.
Because, absolutely, because, you know, your future's at stake. And it is a short career.
It is.
It's not a long career. And if you don't have a profession outside of football when you finish, and like, you know, there's plenty of nights you're lying on their treatment table and you've got a bit of touch or something's not right, or we even look on now to dimension football, you know, and how much heading the ball has maybe helped towards that. And you're thinking, well, you're out there giving your all, and if you're getting paid for it, if you can get a bit extra, why not? You know, and I don't begrudge the players getting one penny. It's just the sustainability of that, the contracts that are being offered. If they can keep that, you know, going, that's the one thing that worries me.
I think also too is the fact that we are now potentially transitioning to like a full-time, trying to get them more of a full-time basis.
I don't think that'll ever happen.
I don't think that it'll ever fully happen.
No.
The one thing that scares me is I've been around clubs now where there's kids coming through that are full-time.
Yeah.
And they don't know anything else other than playing football.
No.
And the kids don't.
They don't have a plumbing trade or something.
They don't even remotely look like jobs even on the cards.
No.
They don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. And I'm thinking to myself, you're going to be struggling whenever you do realise that maybe you're not good enough to go on further.
Yeah.
And you worry for kids.
Oh, you do. Of course you do. Of course you do. The other thing annoys me, John, is the diving.
Okay. I was trying to talk about education there. You're fucking talking about people jumping over the ball.
Thank God you stopped when you stopped. You never were a diver, you know. Used to be in our day, even you were hurt, you didn't go down because it was a sign of weakness, and it's gone full circle. I remember was getting hurt many's a time, and I'd have been known as maybe somebody who would have done a bit of kicking at the back, but I remember getting hurt many's a time, but I would have thought, you know, I always made it look that wasn't sore until the ball went to the other end of the pitch. Then I was going, Jesus Christ, that was sore.
Don't let anybody see you're hurt.
I didn't want anybody to see I was hurt, or didn't want to go down because it was a sign of weakness. And now they go down, you know, it's going full circle. If you look at them at all, they're down and rolling about as if they've been shot, you know, or hit by Mike Tyson or something. And that really does my head in. I hate that with a passion. The other thing I hate, Johnny, is the wrestling and sumo wrestling they're doing now at all set pieces. Okay. You know, at corner kicks and that there. And I think the sooner referees grow a set and throw a few red cards out, I think it'll stop it, you know. But whilst referees abide with that and then go over and lecture them and stop it, some of the defenders are not even facing the ball anymore. They're standing with their back to the taker of the corner kick or a free kick, just so as they can wrestle your man away from the goalie or whatever it is, you know. And I know there's a lot of blocking goes on, but I hate the sight of that. I think that's not part of the game at all.
When we're talking about hate, I'm going to throw goalkeepers in.
Aye.
If you touch a goalkeeper.
Aye. Protected species.
Oh.
Aye.
I've had a lot of goalkeepers on. I've had a lot of good mates who are goalkeepers. Yes, 100%. But you can't do anything.
No.
You can't.
And you know, most goalkeepers will be good at protecting themselves. They used to be. You had big Wes on. You had big Wes Lamont on.
Used to get the knee up. Used to drive your knee into your first contact.
Correct.
The ball, no problem.
Punch the side of the head off you. Sure. And that would have been Wes's job. You know, Wes Lamont was a top-class goalkeeper. Top-class fella, by the way.
Brilliant.
But a top-class goalie. And like he came and just took everybody, you know, opposition, teammates, didn't matter who it was. He came and punched the head of everything that was in his way. Yeah. Had he kicked you to get at the ball or punch you to get at it, he did it. And that's the way goalkeepers should still be, you know. They should still be that. But now they're a protected species. I totally agree with you.
One thing I want to talk to you about just before we wrap up, we'll sort of the last few things. It's quite big. You've done a lot of big dinners very recently. Very famous people wanting you to have conversations with them and telling a few stories. So I want you to walk me through a few of those. And also, you have an MBE. Something that we can't probably go away here without letting everybody know. Sir Liam, near enough.
Well, the MBE was a shock when I got it. It was a real shock.
Okay.
I didn't think anybody like me from Ballymoney would get the like of that. And funny, just about a few months before it, I had dinner with the Queen.
Okay.
And she'd come over to do a thing in Northern Ireland. I can't remember what it was. It might have been to open a railway station up about Limavady. But I was out cutting the grass one day and my phone rang in my pocket and I answered it and it was the council.
She's not driving past.
No, it wasn't. I had a Philip and I cut it with me. He could have shoveled it. And I was out cutting and my phone went in my pocket and I answered it. And it was a big girl Ivy from, not a big girl, a girl Ivy from Ballymoney Borough Council. She was a bit of a salad dodger. But anyhow, no, I'm only joking. So anyhow, the audience is away again here. But anyhow, lovely girl rang me and she said, Liam, did you get a very important envelope in the post? You haven't responded. And I says, I might have done, and I would have stuck all envelopes in behind the clock in the mantelpiece, never bothered me arse looking at them. But she says, well, we need an answer of the day by 4 o'clock. May I suggest you get in and get a look at it and come back to us? So when I opened it up, it was an invite to dinner with the Queen. She was coming over to open this railway station. And again, I thought, why me? What? So anyway, it was all about security and all the rest and all the protocol you would have to go through. And so I rang her back and said, aye, that's okay. And I remember it was in Royal Portrush Golf Club, the meal was. I think there was 12 of us invited. And she was a lovely wee lady, and we had her dinner, and that was it. There were a lot of
what sort of dinner would you have got there? Like anything special?
No, nothing special. And she was just
like an Indian.
She was just the protocol's pretty special.
Okay.
But how you shake hands and how you addressed her. I think it was Your Highness. The first bit of the conversation, it was Your Majesty or Your Highness or whatever it was, and then after that it was Ma'am.
Right.
The first one was that, and then it was Ma'am.
Like the Irish James Bond sort of stuff.
And then there was the head bow. It's not a bow from the waist.
Right.
And that was in case she headbutt her. No, that's true. She was a tiny woman. And that was in case you headbutt her. It's chin to chest. Like that. It's not like that there in case she...
Like one of the ducks? Pardon? Like a duck who's in case of
I bet like that there. Head to chest. All of this stuff. And you didn't speak unless spoken to.
So see, before we go on,
I didn't say to her, "What's the crack, Mum?" or anything out there. She had the, what sort of flight had you over? Did you come with the boat or what? I never. You don't say anything until they address you. That was what it was made. But perfectly clear.
So see, whenever you've got these steps, right? Are you in the mirror? Fucking.
No, because I only learned that.
You can't fucking go up and go here.
No, there was a guy put me through this that morning in the Coleraine offices. The boy brought us all in. That we're getting their dinner with her, and then we were taken by bus to meet the Queen and have her dinner. And she came in and shook with us and all the
few details, mate. I thought you were practicing before you.
No. And I sort of had a fair idea of the whole protocol, obviously, with having my dinner with her that day. And then about 6 months later, maybe, I got this very important envelope in the post, like a velvety type, and I opened it up and there was this about the MBE. And you can't tell anybody, you get the envelope and it's top secret. So I read all through it then, and God rest me, my late mother, she would have been delighted, for she loved the royal family and all that type of thing. And a boy from Ballymoney, a country boy, going to the Buckingham Palace. And so anyway, the family and us set sail and I was able to wangle a few more tickets for the Wains, and took the Wains and all, and we ended up in Buckingham Palace. And I'll never forget, Johnny, and this is true, whenever I was young growing up, and when you're in the palace, they're fussing around you and it's everything all right, and I'm dead on. You're in along with a lot of people that are obviously, they're there for a reason as well, you know, and there's sometimes, that was one of the times I felt, should I really be here, like, you know, there's people sitting in wheelchairs that had went through hell and back, and I'm thinking, this should maybe be more for them than the likes of me, but anyhow.
Well, what is it you were up for?
Sport, and
was it
and
lifetime reward, the sport type thing?
Sport and charity and stuff like that there, aye. So, and I think one of the leading things was because I did go down south during the Troubles, that they saw that as a...
Building the bridges.
Building those bridges, you know, and even though it was a big mistake, but anyhow, being a Protestant called Liam, but anyhow, when I went in there, and I remember they were fussing around me, you know.
They took pity on you.
They were fussing around me saying, would you like us to polish those shoes before you go in? But no, they were fussing around and getting organised in the palace and so on, and I had a flashback. As true as God, I'm standing, they take about 10 at a time, you know, out of a big holding area. And there's maybe 50 in that holding area on that day. And the family's all the way on down, and they're seated down in where it's all taking place. So you're taken off to a different bit, and then you're brought in. And I remember standing in the queue ready to go in, and I had a flashback to my brother and me fighting when we were young over the head of a heel of a big plain loaf in Ballymoney. That was the only bit of bread left, and the two of us were starving. And I'll never forget, it was a big heel, blue moulded down both sides. And we were knocking hell's bells out of each other over the head of this big heel of loaf to toast it, you know, to eat it. Because you scraped the blue mould off it in them days, and then you put a fork in it and you toasted it, and it was dead on. And there was only the one heel, and we fought, and I remember he beat me. He was bigger than me, he's older than me, and I remember my nose bleeding. And I was standing in Buckingham Palace, and they're fussing around me, and I just had a flashback, and I thought, Jesus, little did I think that day when the brother and me were knocking hell's bells at each other over the slice of loaf, the last slice of loaf, that I'd be standing here in the palace and all these plunkers out round me, you know, when they're all fussing and poking at you and pushing you and shoving you. And I remember going down the corridor, and I thought, boy, I never realised then, you know, this could happen. And my late mother would be looking down thinking, I'm so proud of you, son. And I remember walking down, and when you get to just as you're ready to go in to the ceremony, you're standing where you can see, and there's a real live orchestra playing and all, you know. It's not an old machine playing the music. They're there, and all the pageant and all the boys are there. And I thought it was maybe a CD player or something. And then I headed down. The last boy, he's standing, and they always do a roll call, you know, at every point you get to. So I get to this point, and the last boy before I'm going in, and he speaks without his lips moving. William Beckett? And I says, correct. I nearly done the same as I thought he was a ventriloquist at the start, and he's asking you to make sure, because it's on his list who's to be in next. William Beckett? I said, yes. I says, no heat today. This is true. I said to him, there's no heat today, hey, because it was snowing outside. And he said, this is true. The man says to me, he nearly struck me, Jack. He said, that's right. He says to me, yes, that's a single glazing for you. And I says, that's a single glazing for you. And I thought, Jesus, surely the palace is double glazed. And I says, is there somewhere single glazed? Even we had double glazing at that stage. But it was fighting over the heel of the loaf. I says, single glaze? Yes. And some of the radiators don't work. This is true, that's right. And then I heard, William Beckett, for services to whatever. And then I marched. And you take so many steps, and then you go forward, and that's it. And then they pin the yoke on you, and that's...
Do you get the knife thing? Is that the BB?
No, that's if you're a sir. I thought Jackie might have got that, you know. He would have loved that. Because he actually rang me, and he says, if you get a knighthood before I do, I will do my wrists. I'm not joking you. So anyhow, and I got the MBE, and that was it. And then they took us on down then to... Ian Paisley had it organised, took us to the House of Parliament and that, and gave us a tour of that, you know, and took us all through the House of Parliament and that, and that was it. Great out trip, great memories, you know. And I'm just sorry my mother hadn't been here, because she would love that, you know, because particularly the upbringing we had when it was tough and you end up standing Buckingham Palace. We never realised that might happen, you know, but it did, and something I'm very proud of.
Say, when you're thinking there as a young kid, what's going to happen, when you kind of put your life in perspective at that young age, there's no way you envisioned even the football career, the media career that you had.
No, exactly. No, and you were saying about the media career there, it's been great, you know, and we did the motorbikes, of course, for many, many years. Joel and I and Jackie, and
the Dunlops, isn't that?
And then obviously I was involved with the bikes for long. That's my other sport that I love dearly, you know, and I struggle nowadays to talk a wee bit about it, because I do get a bit emotional, and I'm not being funny. It's just that it's a sport I love, but it's a very unforgiving sport if something goes wrong, you know, and it's not like an old bad tackle or something. If you come off a bike at high speed, you know, obviously it's, and the Dunlops and I it's a family I'm very, very close to, and there's
one brother left, is there?
There's Michael, and just as we speak today, he's probably the best pure road racer in the world, you know, Michael.
And is he still
and when you think of what, he's still racing, and when you think of what he has come through and the losses that he has had, for still to be doing what he's doing at the level #1 in the world, it's incredible.
What do you think drives someone like that? Considering he's probably won it all, he's #1 in the world, he'll always be recognised as probably one of the best riders ever.
The Dunlops they're country people as well. They're just an ordinary, humble family, and they were just blessed with a gift to race motorbikes, and they loved it. They loved working at motorbikes. They were very mechanically minded, and it was Joey initially that set the ball rolling, and he's like a Harry Gregg, isn't he? I think a few years ago the Belfast Telegraph did a poll of who was our greatest ever sportsman come out in Northern Ireland. And people were thinking, it'll be George Best or maybe Wooly John McBride, and all in, you know, in with a good shout. Or maybe Harry Gregg, or Joey won it by a country mile. And that was from people all around Northern Ireland that maybe weren't even anti-bikes. I think because he came up the hard way as well. The Dunlops come up working class people still to this day. It wasn't money or being born with a silver spoon that got them, or what got them. It was their ability to race motorbikes,
the passion
to prepare those bikes. And I sponsored for Robert for 21 years. He was like the young brother I never had, and we travelled the world together, and he won everything. And I remember one time in 1994 when the rear wheel exploded. It was a defective wheel. Going over Balak Bridge and exiting Balak Village in the Isle of Man TT, and I got the message that he was off. Once a helicopter leaves the paddock in the Isle of Man, you know somebody's off. And the helicopter left, but it leaves pretty regularly, so I didn't really think anything untoward until I heard the announcement coming over the loudspeaker. Would Liam Beckett come to race office? So I headed down, and it was a wee lady, a lovely lady called Mrs. Arms, and she says, Liam is off. It's Robert. I knew the minute I heard it over the loudspeaker and the chopper taking off, and I headed down to race office, and for once her face was very solemn, and she said, he's off, Liam, just exiting Balach, and it's not good. I don't have to tell you how to get to Noble's Hospital. You should know it well enough by now. I've been at it plenty of times with them. And I made my way down to Noble's Hospital, and as funny, Johnny, as I was arriving at the hospital in our van, I could see, I still had a lot of hope, because I thought, well, going over Balach's not that fast. It's quick enough, you know, it's maybe 80 mile an hour going over the jump, but then you're accelerating so quickly in them racing bikes, and it would have been about 150 maybe, you know, in 3 or 4 seconds on the exit. And that's where the wheel exploded, just at that 150 mile an hour point, and straight into a stone wall, which they knocked down. And Robert wasn't that big if you saw him. So the chopper was landing with him in it as I arrived at the hospital. And when I went in, there was a lot of hurrying and burying going on in the hospital. And then the media were starting to arrive outside. One of the very first ones in was Joey, still in his leathers. Then their dad, Wally, and then some of the team, and other teams and different people, and people wanting to speak to you, how is he? And I didn't even know at that stage. And then a fella come out, Dr. Stevens, a man who had met several times, lovely man, who was flown in from Liverpool. He was an orthopaedic man, and he was flown always over for the TT races, and he came out to see me, and he says, would 3 of yous like to come in? And I know now that was probably to say our farewell, you know. Robert's here, he's not good, but 3 of yous like to come in. So I said, Wally, you go. That was his dad, Joey, and the other brother, Jim, who wasn't racing. Used to race, but wasn't then. And their dad, he said, no, Liam, you go. You and Joey and Jim go. And I remember us going into the theatre, and they had Robert lying on a big slab. I never saw as much blood in my life. And did the thing on him. And there seemed to be about 20 people running around, you know, shoving tubes in and doing this. And they had oxygen on him, still in his leathers. And he was murmuring. As we were standing looking down at him, he started to murmur something. And it was Joey said to me, Liam, I think he's trying to speak to you. And I says, don't talk, Robert, don't talk, to get you sorted, son. Next thing then, Dr. Stevens says, no, Liam, let him say whatever he wants to say. And I think he felt that was maybe going to be his last words. And he lifted the oxygen off him. And Robert muttered up to me, he says, the rear wheel come off, LB. The rear wheel come off. He must have felt the rear wheel had come off, because he sat down in the back when the wheel exploded. No, it hadn't come off at all. It had smashed into 1,000 pieces. And they rushed him away. And the crowd was getting so big, and the media were there. The world media is at the TT races, so they were all... And then they took and put us, the family, into a room on our own, you know. And Joey left about an hour later. He couldn't hack it, and he says, will you keep me posted, LB? And I says, aye, I'll keep you posted. I'll stay on. Then their dad went, and funnily enough, I sort of stayed on then, near enough myself at the finish, and they just didn't want to face all they were very, not anti-media, but they just didn't feel comfortable when the media were around them, you know, even when the times were good, even when they had won races. Yeah. You know, Joey had ran a mile from a TV crew, you know, and they just shunned away from publicity, but so they all went out back doors and everything. They got them out and empty vehicles and away, and I stayed on. I remember that was about 4 o'clock, Johnny. And I remember them saying, they come out with a message to me to say he will probably not be out of theatre until about 6. They come out shortly after 6, and they says he'll maybe not be out to 8. Then it was 10. And I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning when Dr. Stevens sent for me. And I'll never forget, he had on a shirt and a tie pushed into he's just pushed his tie in to the hole, you know, there in your shirt. And he was like somebody that had worked in an abattoir, just covered in blood. And he says, sit down. And he was quite snappy because he was tired. And he says, we have a very ill man, Liam. And he says, and he started to explain to me, he says, the whole right side had taken it. It left him disabled then for the rest of his life. It severed all the nerves and smashed the legs and arm and all in bits. And he says, as we were working on his arm, his legs started to turn black, which looked like immediate amputation. So we then forgot about the arm and went to concentrate on the leg. And when we were working on the leg, the arm started to turn black, which looked like amputation. So at that stage, he felt they were going to have to amputate the leg and arm. But he says, I'm dreading the worst at this stage, and I'm thinking, what's going on? And he says, at this minute in time, he has both that arm and that leg. Will they still stay like that? I don't know. The damage is so severe. And he says, but I'll tell you something. I says, well, what happens now? He says, the nerves are all severed. I think this was the next day. He took me in to talk to me, the doctor. And he says, those nerves are all severed. And I said, can they be done with microsurgery or something? He says, no, that's like a horse's tail. When that there gets cut, there's so many. And they're short, they come apart. And they grow, he said, for about 1/8 of an inch, and then they stop, form a wee knob on the end of them. That, he says, he will have a drop hand for life and a drop foot if we can keep those 2 limbs. And that nearly broke my heart, because Robert was a handsome young boy and a Jack the lad, and loved his football, by the way. And I thought, Christ almighty. But anyhow, I sat with him in intensive care 3 days, just wetting his lips with an ice cube while he was on serious medication and sedated. And I think it was the third day that Dr. Stevens came to see me, and he says, I think we can maybe get him to walk again. He says 48 hours is crucial because he could die yet because the body's in such trauma. And he says, we might be over that, Liam. He'll not walk properly. He'll not be able to hold anything in his right hand. And I'm thinking, there's the old throttle going anyway for the bike. And he says, but I'll tell you something. He'll never sit in a motorbike again. And that nearly broke my heart.
Yeah.
And I thought, because they live for the bikes, you know. But he fought, Johnny, and he fought, and he fought, and he got out of the hospital after I don't know how many weeks. And he come home, and he was in crutches, and he went through so many operations. And to cut a long story short, 2 years later, the wee bike was sitting in my garage, and I come down one night, the 125 it was, with 125, 250 and big bike and all this. But he come down and he says, still hurtling on a stick, you know, fire up, LB. And I says, what? Fire her up. And I says, get her that. That was it. Get her that. So I went out and I says, what are you for doing? He says, and he had devised a glove with springs attached to the back, from the back of each finger up to wee hooks here, that the springs would open his hand up automatically when he relaxed. Because all your nerves and all these things they're all controlled by your brain. But the system that delivers them to the limbs and to your hands and your feet had all been severed. So he said he'll think he's holding on tight, the doctor told me, but he could just do that. Even Robert said, you'll never take that. He was able to do that, you know. But anyway, he devised this glove. And down the road, pulls the lid on, down our road, and it nearly broke my heart. There was a lump in my throat when I watched him coming back up again, and I could see in his eye, he wants to race again. And then I sat him down and I had a long talk, and I said, wait, I tell you, we've walked after, I don't know how many people that have lost their life in this sport. I don't want to lose you. You've won everything, you know, TT, Northwest 200s, Ulster Grand Prix. You won the British Championship. You won every race in the British Championship. Yeah. You've done it all. You don't need to race again. And I could see even a steely resistance coming into his eyes. The more I tried to talk him out it, the more determined he came. And then you have a choice. You can either walk away and say, well, get on with it, because I don't want to be party to it. And what you would have done, he would have went on with it. Or you can stay by his side and be there. And I obviously was going to choose the latter. I was going to stay by his side. And by hook and by crook, 2 years later, believe it or not, we were back in Isle of Man. And there's a story about what we had to do with the throttle. I'll not even tell it. I might get jail. And it was lumping my throat. And of course the media was all round him, because the famous Robert Dunlop was back after being told that he would never even sit on a bike. There he is, back to compete. And he went out and competed. And I took a walk, because I was starting to fill up a wee bit, to even see him setting sail down Glencrutchery Road on a TT race. And I remember taking a wee walk round the corner, and I was listening to the commentary. And when they got to the first commentary point, he was leading. And then they got to the second commentary point, he was still leading. And then at this stage, I nearly had another brown hemorrhage. I'm thinking, holy Christ. So he goes down by the start and finish at the end of the first lap, and it's like a 40-mile-an-hour lap, or it's a 40-mile lap nearly, 38 and 3/4 or something, right round the whole island, the circuit. Trees and poles and walls and you name it, flat out. And he goes down by like a bat out of hell in the first lap, and it's 4 laps the race. He has to do it 4 times. And again, to cut a long story short, he takes the checkered flag. And I remember when he got to signpost, and I thought, oh, Jesus, I hope the bike sees it. You know, hope you're starting to think you're part of it. You know, hope the bike lasts. You know, hope there's enough fuel in it. That we put enough fuel in it. Because so many had ran out and just to be short, because you never carried more than you absolutely needed. But no, I heard them saying, and the rider has appeared in Glencrutchery Road, and I looked out, and I knew the cut him. I didn't even have to see him. I knew the shape he rode a bike, and I says, that's him. And down he come and took the checkered flag. And I remember I couldn't hold on any longer, so I went around a corner to have a good old cry to myself. And because doctors, I'm thinking, what's the hell out Dr. Stevens now? I would say, what did you tell me? And never underestimate a Dunlop. And I remember coming back and going round a corner when a man tapped me in the shoulder and the big tears are streaming. No man loves to cry or wants to cry in front of people because we're all that macho, we're not allowed to cry. And I'm standing fruiting like a good one. And the next thing, a man tapped me in the shoulder and he said, let it go, Liam, let it go, son. What a result. The place was going mad. There wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Yeah.
And because everybody knew the story. And I looked down, it was Joey's manager, Davy Woods, and Davy was bawling his eyes out as well. And all the main media men, we were talking about the media, they were all bawling their eyes out, and he arrives back up and he had won another TT, you know, against all the odds, and then, of course, lost up at the Northwest 200.
Yeah.
So those are 10, then we lost. I sort of was able to live with that because Robert had had a good life, but when young William was killed, Robert's son, that really hurt me big time because he would have been reared along with my son William, 2 Williams together, and he'd been in our house since he was away, and it was there the night he was born, young William, and I kept saying you were the reason I had, but the only hangover ever in my life, because I'm not a drinker, but him and Robert and me, his dad and me went for a few beer that night. I think I had about 6 pints. You know, 2's my limit, John. And I could have booked for Ireland. I was down the toilet for about 3 days. I never was as sick in all my life. And every time I used to keep William going, you were the reason I had the biggest hangover ever. But he would have been round our house, you know, with an old nappy hanging on him and all, and like the rest of our Wayans, we were all reared together, like, and but when we lost young William, again through no fault of his own, that sort of took the wind out of my sails a bit, you know, and I never really was the same after it. I still love the sport, and I love to see Michael doing well because I know what they've come through, but it's tough.
Is there a fear there with watching those sorts of races with Michael being in and now to be like,
there is.
There's only one left?
Aye. There always is, you just, you know, I remember Robert used to, a lot of things, I'll not say a lot that we used to do before races, but he would always give me his wedding ring, you know, just before he got on the bike. And I remember him telling me one night we were coming back from a race somewhere, and we very rarely talked about death, very, very rarely. But I remember him saying to me, if anything ever happened to me, LB, and he told me what to do with his wedding ring. And when he did lose his life, and the family says, LB, did he ever tell you what? And I says, he told me he wanted something done with his wedding ring, and I couldn't remember. And they said, well, don't worry, he lost it in the moss there a couple of weeks ago. He was out cutting peats and the moss, and he had lost the wedding ring in the moss. So it took me out of jail. It got me out of jail, all right. I didn't have to say what. But,
you had one job.
I know, and the next thing was, but no, they're a great family, and I love them dearly, and we're very, very close. And because they achieved so much, Johnny, with so little, it made me very proud of them, you know, and I'm still proud to this day. And I keep an eye for Michael's sake, you know, but I just don't have
the spanner down anyway.
Aye, they're down, and he's good lads round him, Michael, and because the Dunlop name always had a tendency to attract the wrong people, you know, the wrong type of people that were there only to hang on and money, get a drink, and be seen or get pictured beside them. And I used to watch that like a hawk. And as I say, whenever Robert won the British Championship, there was only always the two of us, him and me, just, you know, so. And that's all you need really round bikes, because although the more bikes, the more people you need, but we used to be able to do it ourselves because it's such a high-risk sport that if he knows who's working at it, and, you know, every knot's tightened and double-checked, and that trust factor has to be there, whereas if you're letting other people prepare something and you're going to go down the road at 210 or 220 mile an hour on it, you want to make sure it's all there, you know, so.
You have a bike yourself?
I had a 250 Super Dream. I would never had the ability to race the bike, nor the knackers to race a bike. But we come on a very bad accident between races in Isle of Man. One time we were out testing in Derby, and it was a German couple had arrived off the boat, and they'd forgot the wrong side of the road, and they were coming around the corner, and they'd come head on into another bike, and the three of them were killed instantly. And we arrived on it first. We were coming from testing, and I remember that day thinking, like Joey or Robert would very rarely have taken a bike out onto the public road. They felt it was too dangerous, to take a bike out when the cars and all are about, they wouldn't do that. We used to do it sometimes when we used to shut the roads illegally with cars, block the roads.
Just either side.
I had plenty of boys that would put the cars out, and block the roads, and then we'd had a bit of rough around the road, Even the police, fair play to them, turned a blind eye to but no, it's just something that when I come home after seeing that accident in the island, I sold the 250. And I used to run the bikes in for Robert, because you don't race a bike when you're running it, and you take it slowly and build up the speed. And then he would have took over when it was getting to the fast bit. And I remember they used to keep me going when we were at Derby coming down the racetrack, and I might have been coming down running on a piston, maybe doing 100, 110 mile an hour, which I thought was pretty chill. Right. And Robert would have come out and waved me down, in front of everybody, and he'd have said, "Stop, LB. We're counting the spokes as you go past." They were counting the spokes and the wheels as I was going by, they told me. And he used to pull me in front of everybody, But it was a great time, and it's great memories, and it's memories that I'll never lose, and I'm so proud of the Dunlops. Because again, from country people from a wee town of Ballymoney, and they became global stars, and they'll never be forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah, incredible stories that I can't even put in comprehend, because I've watched my dad's be in the bikes and stuff and in the cars, and he sits here with me every week, and he probably certainly knows the decent extent of what you're talking about there. I've just seen the name. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, you're either in the old sport or you're not, and again, as I say, they were... It was never, they made bikes, really themselves. And I remember even the top English riders coming over with the best factory machinery, and particularly Joey in the early days, sending them all home with their tail between their legs, Yeah. People used to come when Robert won the British Championship every round, and I remember people coming and saying to me, "What are the tyres, Liam? What are the compounds? And what's this and what's that?" And I just always said, don't worry, it's what's sitting on the thing.
Yeah,
it's not only obviously your bike's well prepared, but talent, it's like talent, Johnny. You and I would know it through the football. You get to a level, and that's your level. Mm-hmm. And there'll be boys better than you, and the boys better than me. 100%. And it's the same in bikes. And, you'll always find your level. And to get to Irish League level is a great level.
Mine's a push bike now, to be fair.
Well, that's fast enough.
I'll sit on a BMX.
Fast enough. You can't even red diesel on a push bike, Johnny, but anyhow.
You can get a red one, though.
Anyhow, as I say, you find your level. Well, they were just a nick above, They were just blessed with the man above gives you that.
Talent, yeah.
And in football, and I know, that everybody wants their kids to be great, but the man above gives you ability. And, coaches don't give you it. They can develop it, but they can't give you it. No. The man above at birth gives you a certain talent. And as I say, coaches can help develop it, but they can't give you talent. It's the same with bikes, racing motorbikes. Them boys were born to do it. They had the nerve to do it. They had the mechanical, technical know-how to do it. And then they had the ability to do it. And for me, there'll never be anybody else that'll come close to the Dunlop. Some great riders, by the way, I admire them all. M8 racers, motorbikes, particularly the pure road racing, as I call it, on the roads. Not so much the short circuits. I don't enjoy that as much, but the pure road racers, they're a different breed.
Different, yeah.
Different breed.
What's next? You're talking there at the start of the podcast that you're trying to signal your way out maybe in 2 years' time. But
I would like to hit the 20-year mark on the BBC and then step down. I still go to games, Johnny. I would still go. I love the football on a Saturday. I really look forward to it. If they stop the diving and they stop them other things and they make sure VAR never comes in. I like fishing. Yeah. You see if they ever bring VAR into the Irish League, you'll get me down the river somewhere. I won't be anywhere near it because I couldn't watch. I might go and watch the lower levels, and go down into the championship and all there, but
watch people kick each other.
Aye. If they get back to what football used to be like, but no, I enjoy it and I'll still go, but I think you need fresh blood, you need new young blood coming through like yourself, and by the way, I do honestly think you do a great job at this.
Well, appreciate it.
For somebody that hasn't been doing a lot of it, it's something you should seriously take.
So you got a decent vocabulary, you see.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Good way with you. And you know you've been there and done it. It's hard to talk to people that haven't,
Yeah.
you know, and you're sitting, it's like listening to a coach, you know what I mean? You know what it's like if you're sitting in a dressing room listening to a coach that never played, but he's trying to tell you how to play. You don't really listen,
Don't really
do you?
respect
You're
it
looking
that
up
way,
at
do you?
the ceiling and you're saying, that's a bad crack. And, I mean, you don't really listen to
See,
some.
there's some Muppets that come into the change room.
Oh, absolutely. And as I say, they have that many coaching badges nowadays, and I like to listen to somebody and have a conversation. Not everybody has been fortunate enough to play, but at the level. But it's when somebody's really adamant and telling you how to play when you know they couldn't play.
Yeah.
So that sometimes does my head in. I remember signing, I can't say too much, and then we're finishing because it's daylight out there. I remember playing for a manager one time. God, he was a lovely, lovely, lovely man. But he was a school teacher, and there's nothing wrong with school teachers, even though they did make me stand at the back of the dinner queue. But he was a lovely, lovely man. But he was so emphatic in the dressing room telling us how to play. And I'm sitting thinking, sure, you couldn't play.
Yeah.
Why are you telling me how to play? And maybe that's the wrong way to look at things, but it's the way I was, you know, on a difficult...
I think that's probably the most way from players
Aye.
as well, because I know that even the last couple of years there's been people in certain situations and you're going, not a hope am I listening to anything
I know.
you're telling me.
I know.
No, I don't know everything, 100%. I'd be the first person to vote.
We're learning all the time.
Definitely know a lot more than certain people. And
I
I'm
know.
going, absolutely.
I know, and some of them are lovely people, you know, but if they would just...
Some of them also weren't that nice. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
That makes it
absolutely.
even worse.
Oh, that makes it even worse.
So,
Oh, aye.
But listen, we'll not host. Listen, to finish off the podcast, we always finish on hugs to cheer everybody up. So up you get, sir.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Oh, Frank, to us, it's been absolutely done.
We're finished. We're finished. Oh, God, I'll sign us out here, but unbelievable. Cheeks are still hurting, I think. Oh, God. Join us next week on the On the Spot Football podcast for yet another fantastic guest. You'll just have to tune in next week to see who it is. See you soon.